All right, good evening, everybody. It's 5:30. We're going to go ahead and start our pre-meeting for ceremonies and recognitions. This is just informal. This is not the beginning of the meeting. That's at 6 o'clock. And the first thing we have on the agenda for tonight is a proclamation recognizing the week of April 3rd as National Library Week. Do we have anybody here from the library? Come on down.
My fellow model is here.
Oh, I do recognize him.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you.
You guys are after my heart.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Turn you on.
Okay, all righty. Oh, my goodness, we'll have to share. We can share,
Yeah.
right? Thank you so much, appreciate it. All right. Gosh, we're easy to please. Well, come on down because we have the proclamation. Do you guys have anything you'd like to share? I'm only at 26 days on my reading challenge, but, you know, I'm working on it. Y'all doing the reading challenge? The winter reading? Oh, you'll have to talk about it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
right now the Fountain Library is doing winter adult reading, so you can read for 30 days and you get this year's coffee mug, which is an orange one that fits your hand very nicely. You also get chocolate in a reusable straw. But the library district supports all of El Paso County, and so Fountain Library is just excited that the city of Fountain can recognize National Library Week. It's just the week where we get to brag about ourselves. There's a bookmobile day, so lots of fun stuff happening. And then spring break, which is the end of the month, we have giant-sized Candyland on Tuesday. So
Wow.
if you like Candyland, you can come play. It's going to go throughout the entire library.
Oh,
So,
how fun.
And then June 11th, you have your Regional History Symposium.
yes. We have lots of stuff in June, but June is, like, last time I was here for proclamation was 2019, and I'm thinking, that was 1,000 years ago.
Seems that, well, I would just like to tip my hat to everything you guys did during COVID to keep people in books, movies, and everything else. Very inventive, from curbside pickup to, you know, everything that went with that, and really, really appreciated it. And I think our community really does. So thank you very much for figuring that out. Did get a little confusing on, like, I dropped that book off last week and it's still not checked in. I'm sure you got a lot of phone calls.
Just a 96-hour quarantine period.
Yeah, I know, because you,
Health and
yeah, and so you're like, oh, no, it's late, but it's technically there,
yeah.
and, you know, so, yeah.
That was wonderful. Every staff were singing praises for days. No
Yeah.
more bins of books.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys had it tough because a lot of the libraries still could keep their community rooms open a little bit, but you couldn't because that's where your quarantine books went. So thank you very much for that. So we have a proclamation here. Would you like to read it or would you like me?
Please.
Okay. Alrighty, proclamation recognizing National Library Week, April 3 through 9, 2022. Whereas public libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of connection and build community. Whereas libraries connect people to technology, providing access to broadband internet, computers, and training that are critical for accessing education and employment opportunities. Whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to connect with new ideas and become their best selves through access to multimedia content, programs, and classes in addition to books. Whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building and everyone is welcome to use their resources. Whereas in times of crisis, libraries and library professionals play an invaluable role in supporting their communities both in person and virtually. Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. Whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are expanding their resources and continuing to meet the needs of their patrons. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, including veterans, active service military and their families, small business owners, community organizations, and churches, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of the democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Fountain proclaim National Library Week, April 3 through 9, 2022. During this week, I encourage all residents to connect with the Pikes Peak Library District by visiting online or in person to access recesses and service. Done this 8th day of March 2022 at Fountain, Colorado. Thank you very much. All right, anybody else have any library stories? I mean, I just still find it amazing we can talk in the library anymore, you know?
I have
Very
to say,
different.
my brother and I grew up here in this town, and we didn't have a library then, so we had used the bookmobile. And so we got our first Pikes Peak Library District cards when we were 18 months old. And, because my mom would take us over to the bookmobile, and we were allowed, I think, 7 books. And that was like the highlight, is to go get those books. It still is the highlight.
That's right.
So, library is fantastic.
Thank you.
I think it's wonderful, especially when you're a parent and you're tired and you want to read books, but you can't. You have those, the earphones, and you have the books that open and they talk, and they just keep the kids just, so they help you out. So I love that part where you have the audio-visual books. Those are great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I have nephews, and that,
Yeah, that saved me a lot. And we visited the library a lot when my son was small. And I don't know if you remember, you had a photographer there, there was a librarian. She took a lot of pictures of him, and the children programs are awesome. I really like, you put a lot of time, and I really appreciate that.
thank you.
Yeah.
We do have some of the best attended children's programs in the district. Like, we beat Sand Creek, we beat Ruth Holly. At a toddler time, a couple Thursdays ago, we had 60 parents and kids.
Wow.
Which is a lot of parents and kids, but, it's not as organized as you would want with 60 people, but those kids love it, and those parents really love the community, and they get to meet like we have moms from Fort Carson and just parents in the community who get to come and meet and learn about all the things they could need to raise happy, healthy kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I also appreciate the fact that our OEM, we can use their library room if we need it. And we did one time when we had a fire behind the library. And so it just makes you guys a whole part of our community. So thank you very much.
We appreciate being part of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to get over there and get my mug. And it's 30 minutes of reading. It doesn't have a book. So all the reading we do for this kind of stuff counts towards your 30 minutes of reading. So I don't even have books listed half the days because I'm like,
day without reading at least.
yeah, but, well, I know, but, okay. All righty, next on our agenda is a proclamation declaring the first full week of April to be recognized as National Public Health Week, and we did read that into perpetuity last year, April of 2021, but we did want to go ahead and recognize that again. We're not reading the proclamation, but especially with everything that I think public health took on a whole new meaning in the last couple years. And then also, Councilmember Gordon Rick reminded me that today is International Women's Day, so we wanted to take a minute and recognize that. And we're very blessed in America. A lot of women in a lot of countries have a long way to come still. And now we have someone from, you're hiding back there. I still can't see you. Okay, here we have.
I saw his head.
Yep, we have Mr. James Flowers here from the Fountain Valley Chamber of Commerce to give us an activities update. We know you were busy tonight. You're supposed to bring cupcakes to bribe everybody, you know?
We have them in your cars already. All right. City Council, those in presence and those online, we will thank you all for the support that you do for the Fountain Valley Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce job is to promote the local businesses, not the small business, but local businesses, our city, and our citizens as a whole. We do this with pride and joy because that's just what we love to do, folks. So I'm gonna give you an update of what we've done in the last year and our plans for the coming year. So currently, I wanna make sure I thank all of our sponsors. I wanna thank the Springs Funeral Home. I wanna also point out the Black Hills Energy Dignity Memorial, Fountain Fort Carson District 8, Wyfield School District 3, Rocky Mountain Bank and Trust, Pikes Peak International Raceway, and especially our biggest sponsor and brother and sister, the City of Fountain and the City Council. What we've done with the Chamber, we actually have learned that the Chamber needs some help because we want to do more. In order to do that, we've actually grown. The Chamber now has committed to have 4 new committees that's going to help us out. An Education Information Committee, which will include military, government, minority, women, and nonprofit information and support. We will also have an ambassador committee whose job will be to go out to local businesses, organizations to answer questions and give support directly to our members and citizens. The Fall Festival Committee, one and only job is to promote and make the Fall Festival better than it was the last year. In conjunction, we have an activity committee chair. Their job would be to coincide with anything going on for city and businesses to promote all of the different things we're doing at that time. All of this is possible, like I said, with our sponsors and our members. We all know during COVID, a lot of businesses closed doors, but a lot of employees opened up their own businesses at the same time. Currently, the chamber sits at 123 active members, and we're going to look to make that goal of 200 plus before the year ends. And of course, my wife would call in the middle of this. Anytime I meet, there's a lot of wife for the daughter. It's the daughter this time. Yeah, I'm telling you, they got me tagged. Definitely, they got me tagged. Getting back on my train of thought there. She just messed me up. Gotta love it. So let you know what we've done in the community. So a couple key things what the chamber has done. I talked about all new members. Let's talk about some recurring things that happen. One of the biggest things we love to do is our ribbon cutting and letting people know how we appreciate that. So last month we had 2 great ribbon cuttings. We had the Dutch Brothers that opened, would also provide the free coffee that's downstairs that we have prepared for the council. We have American roasted, and we have cups waiting, standing by. I'm gonna get my sponsorship pitch in. We also want to acknowledge about the assisted living location that was ribbon cutting last month. We had a lot of city members and council members there in attendance. We thank you for that. Well, this month we have another big one, folks. We have the fiber optic company that's actually going to be doing a ribbon cutting, which will be at Peaks and Pine on March the 30th that evening. So we actually come out to support that as well. A couple other key things we have going on is we want to also acknowledge the fact that we're going to continue to build this chamber with other things. We have our monthly first and third Friday business breakfast. That currently right now is at the IHOP, but we will be moving to the El Paso County Health Building once that's actually been remodeled and cleared. And as the second quarter, we will now have a breakfast and a lunch for the first or the third. So we give you time to actually not get up early in the morning like I have to do at 5 o'clock in the morning to be ready for you guys to come at 7 o'clock and say, oh, I'm not going to make it. No, we're going to have fun, have a lunch as well. We're also going to open up second quarter. We're going to start doing our business after hours and lunch and learns. The business after hours are specifically for our local businesses to promote their business, invite us over to let people know what they can and cannot do. The lunch and learns, we're bringing in specialists to help the small business, local businesses to improve with things like taxes, marketing, social media, just customer service in general to help improve their business as a whole. For our outreach, we're going to be doing a lot of things more. I've already mentioned the Fall Festival, which is our pride and joy for our lovely city of Fountain. This year, we've got a different goal, folks. We're going to take over Colorado Springs by taking the Fall Festival to a new level. We're going to make sure that they know that Fountain is not the little redhead stepchild or security in Whitefield. I apologize, folks. I always forget to mention that. That's why we changed the chamber from Fountain Chamber to Fountain Valley Chamber, covering all of our cities. The Fall Festival, we're going to bring in more businesses, more entertainment, and we're going to make the parade bigger and better with your support. Also, in conjunction to that, we're going to actually have, I'm having a little layout here, writing it down. We're still supporting locally. Last month, we just supported the Fountain Valley Scholars with their fashion show. If you did not come and get to see Boyd with his tan line shorts on, you missed a great thing, but we got pictures of that. We had several council, PD, Chris was there. We don't know what he had on, but I think he just reached back in the closet and found something. He didn't go shopping anywhere. But we had a great time going on with that. We also had the Black History Month event that we had at the YMCA. We thank the YMCA for supporting both those events. For summertime, we're looking to support the farmers market and the other local events that are going on for the fall. We're talking about the Fall Festival, but when the winter hits, we've got something special planned. We're going to definitely support the Salvation Army and the Red Kettle as we do every year. We're going to support the city with the tree lighting, but we're also going to have a local small business expo. We're going to specifically target those who do crafts and holidays at that time to promote them, to make more sales, to make things better. I submit to you as board members, members of the city, if you're a business owner, join the chamber. Why should you join the chamber? Because with you, the chamber gets bigger and better. We have to represent more. If you were a member of the chamber and you left because of other reasons, talk to me. Talk to one of the board members. Talk to one of the committee members. Let us know what we can do to get better, because if we can't earn you back as a member, we can't earn anybody back as a member. With that being said, I open the floor for any questions or concerns.
It's great to hear the chamber doing lots and lots of things. I really appreciate it. Could I get you to do one thing? Could you work with Mark or Jolene from the Senior Center for your craft fair? They have a craft fair in the past, and very low cost for the seniors to get into it. And I don't want to have it on overlapping weekend, the same weekend or something like that. Or maybe the seniors might want to participate in your craft fair if the cost is because let me tell you, they really put out for that craft fair. They have a ton of stuff, so they probably have enough for two.
We'll
But,
work with that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that would be great. And I believe the Senior Center is a member of the chamber, so.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so.
Soon to be sponsors. We're going to talk about this more. No. Any other
We're a
questions?
nonprofit. Don't take too much money from them.
Nonprofits are easy. We make special exceptions for that. That being said, man, I want to also let you know, if you have not had a chance to actually look on our website, we have a new webmaster, Mr. Ralph McCoy. He's actually updating our website as need be. We already have connected the city's new app onto our website, and we're pushing that out of all of our meetings. In order to connect with the chamber, connect with the app. Any more questions or concerns?
Ever just thought about having any occasional evening events from the chamber? We used to have the chamber dinners, and you went to the breakfast, which I think is great. You have a great crowd coming to that, but it's just difficult for some people to do the mornings. So do
Right.
you ever?
What we're doing this second quarter, like I said, we're going to be bringing back the business after hours. It would be 5 to 8 at different times, because, as you already stated, it's hard to get away in the middle of the day, and it's definitely hard to get in every morning or twice a month for the breakfast. That's why we're going to have a breakfast one week. We're going to have a lunch and learn, and that next week, the third week, we'll have a lunch for all of us to join. Then we have a business after hour the last month. So you have 4 different times of the week and 4 different times of the day to participate with the chamber and all our members. Any more questions or concern? I'm retired military. I can take this all day. Let's go.
Committees.
Yes, as I stated before, we actually created 4 new committees. We have the Education Information Committee, which is going to be covering military information, government information, minority, women, and nonprofit. That will be their primary goal, to go out and find information within the community that's happening, stuff outside the community to bring back, so we have information steadily available for all of those following in that suit. We're going to also expand ambassador committees, because an ambassador's job will be to contact a certain number or certain letters of businesses, and that's their personal connection. You won't have a telemarketer call, you won't have a robocall, you have an actual person that you can talk to and come back and forth to handle any situation or any question you may have. The Fall Festival Committee, as we stated, that's going to be permanently positioned that's their job. Just promote this Fall Festival, promote the city and everything that we do, continue to build that. And with the Activity Committee, they work in conjunction with the Fall Festival, with the business after hours, and any event. So if the city has something major going on, we'll promote it. If an organization has it, we're going to promote it. If a business has it, we're going to promote it. So the committee's job is to work in conjunction with the board and the city and the council to continue to build everything.
Mr. Flowers, do you ever have, and this might be up your lane, teacher, as far as tours for the youth who might want to get into starting a business and all what that looks like? I've had a couple of youth who said they want to start a business, but they really want to start it, but they don't know all the particulars behind that. Is that something that you guys do?
Yeah, we actually looked into the Lemonade Stand group. It's a group down in Texas, which they actually will help and guide the children to get a bank account, get the $20, $50 loan that they need to actually get their business registered, and everything will be in the mom and the dad's name, and actually we'll go through training with that. We took a pause on that as of last year to get the board resituated to take over, but that's something that's very deep. We feel that a lot of our youth are leaving the city because, why should I stay here? Education, business, but we actually instill in them how they can grow their business in the community with the connections. We feel they'll be staying. So that's something we're going to actually focus on this year to have implemented, definitely fully running by next year.
I would reach out to the Pikes Peak Workforce Center and see if they have anything like that, or if they've ever had interest in it, or if they know of any programs on it. Yeah, they got a lot of resources we don't use sometimes.
Yeah, we actually have reached out to, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mayor. The Pikes Peak Workforce is actually working with us in conjunction with the SBDC. The SBDC has approved and will be having a satellite office here in our area. Once we get the El Paso County Health Office straight, they will have a satellite office in there. They will be providing all of our lunch and learns. Their consultants will be coming and teaching us everything we need, or they're having free of charge. If you do not know, as of this month or this year, the SBDC has offered all of their classes free of charge, except those that are the higher end $200, $400 classes.
Great point. We have seniors that are about to go off to college. When they go off to college, get that degree, we'd love for them to come back, provide that back into the city with the education and talents that they've learned. So it starts here. We got to help that foundation to build that up and that interest. So I appreciate all that you're doing.
That's exciting. And just for the record, can you quote what SBDC is?
The SBDC is the Small Business Development Center. It's actually, the executive director is Ms. Atha McCooler. She actually is very involved with the community. They have, a huge amount of consultants. They also have a partnership with the SCORE, which is SCORE is actually for veterans to help their businesses. Unfortunately, the SCORE no longer has a local office, so everything they do is actually by phone, email, or video, but we do have a contact to get involved with that. Expanding with the military, I've talked with several of the board members and myself, and we're getting back involved. We started last year getting back involved with Fort Carson and the local areas, because when you in process as a military, and as Councilman can tell you, when you come in the process in the military here, whether it be Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Space Force, they talk about the springs, but they never mention Fountain. So we're going to get more involved, let them know Fountain is here. Don't walk past us. Come stay with us.
Right. And interesting enough, Councilmember Hinton, some of the largest growth within our community a few years ago showed it was actually, our kids used to leave, and take their education somewhere, but some of the largest growth is kids coming back from college and wanting to stay within the Colorado Springs, Fountain Valley area. So that, to me, was exciting to hear that they were wanting to come back, yeah.
Excellent. Are there any more questions or comments I can answer? That being said, I thank you, Mayor, council members, those in attendance, except for Chris. Have a nice day.
All right, we will take a 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll begin again at 6 o'clock when our actual meeting time is. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to have to take everybody's books away. Oh, my goodness.
He died in 2004, 80, he was 80.
All right, we got everybody back? All right, welcome to the March 18th hybrid city council meeting. And we're going to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. City Clerk Sylvia Huffman, would you call the order roll, please?
Mayor Thompson,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Estes,
Here?
Councilmember Applegate,
Councilmember Applegate?
Councilmember Applegate,
Here.
Councilmember Hinton,
Here.
Councilmember Rick,
Here.
Councilmember Corey,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
all 7 members present.
All right, thank you very much. Before we begin tonight, we're going to kind of go out of order, and I do have a statement here from the City of Fountain on Ukraine. City of Fountain, Ukraine statement, March 18th, 2022. On behalf of the citizens whom we represent, we, as City Council members of the City of Fountain, wish to express our solidarity with the people of Ukraine as they bravely stand against the forces of tyranny arrayed against them. We may be a small city, far removed from the geopolitics of Europe, but as a military community of active and veteran service members, we have a unique perspective on the price of freedom and its impact on soldiers and their families. We also understand that some of our own servicemen and women may be called to provide support for this current struggle. As former President Ronald Reagan once said, "The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave." Therefore, we stand with Ukraine and send our thoughts and prayers, as inadequate as they are, to the brave people of Ukraine as they fight for their country and stand up for freedom-seeking people everywhere. That is a statement from the City Council and is a unanimous statement from everyone. Thank you very much. And I do have a copy if the press would like a copy of that. I can get it to you afterwards. All right, with that, we'll continue. All righty, we have no presentations. We have no board and commissioner committee people to appoint because I guess we did them all last week. Had a lion's share of them last meeting. All righty, so item 5, City Council agenda requests. City Council may use this time to request any item for future consideration on the agenda. And is there anyone who has any agenda requests? I'll go down really quick. Councilmember Duncan?
I don't.
Councilmember Applegate?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Estes?
Nothing.
Councilmember Hinton?
Nothing.
Councilmember Corey?
Nothing at this time.
Councilmember Rick?
Yes, I do have something. I apologize for breaking the streak.
No reason to apologize.
Madam Mayor, request that we schedule an item to discuss our sign ordinance with regards to signs in the public right-of-way. We're talking about an election coming up where we're going to have some initiatives on there. And in order to publicize what we want done, I think we need to relook at our sign ordinance.
Okay, do you have the specific sections you can work with staff on that to bring it back?
Hold on, let me.
Because I know if somebody
Yes.
just said, I want to revisit the sign code.
No, thank you for reminding me. I did write it down. Zoning ordinance 17.20.020 subsection I and L.
Okay, we'll give Mr. Trainer a second to get that down. All right.
Can I repeat that real quick, make sure I got it?
Sure.
17.20.020 I and L?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so Scott, you or staff will reach out to Mr. Rick and find out specifically what it is he's wanting to discuss? Okay, all right, and that will be brought back first as just a discussion item, and then if we wanted to go forward with that or not. Would that be correct? Okay, because I don't want staff to spend a bunch of time rewriting it
Yeah.
before we discuss it.
If the council switches the next meeting until next week, we probably wouldn't be able to have anything prepared, but okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so you're wanting to put it on the agenda for the first meeting in April?
For discussion for April,
Is that okay with you, Councilman?
Sure.
okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. All right, and so, okay, that's all the agenda requests. Item number 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I do not have any cards. Sylvia, do you have any from anybody signed up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so anybody in the audience that wanted to speak on anything that is not an agenda item? All right, and let me, I got it. Oh, hold on, I have an attendee online. Woo-hoo. All right, we have one attendee, and I don't see any questions. So, all righty. And IT, if somebody pops a question, will you help me with that, please, in case I don't catch it? Got a few little moving pieces up here. All righty, so we're on to item number 7, the consent agenda. All items listed in the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. So we have the consent agenda with items A, B, C, and D. Does anyone have anything they would like to pull off the consent agenda tonight? I don't see any heads looking up, so, okay, does anyone have a motion? Oh, my goodness, I have, no, I don't have the right names up here. I think I have the planning commission names. I'm like, who is Anderson?
You can just pull the plate off and flip it over.
Okay. There we go. I was I was surprised. I'm like, whoa, you changed your name. I didn't know about it. Councilmember Estes.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
All right, we've had a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion of that or anybody want to pull anything off? Seeing none, please vote. Gotta find them.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, all right. Old business, item A, second reading of ordinance number 1771, an ordinance replacing the street design standards chart, City of Fountain 2008, with the street and roadway design criteria standards, Fountain Municipal Code 12.04, construction generally section 12.04.250. Brandy.
Good evening. I brought this to you all at our last city council meeting. Nothing has changed. I just want to see if anybody had any questions since you looked at this last time.
Give me a second to catch up on the papers here.
It's a really fantastic chart. Like 4-point font. Looks great in the engineering world because it tells everybody what our streets are supposed to look like.
Are there any changes from the 08?
Correct. There's no changes.
No changes at all from 08. Okay, now that makes a simple decision.
Yep.
All righty. Okay. Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah, I have one question. You remember I gave you that plan and everything that I had earlier that was a drawing for how to do the manhole covers?
I still have it, yes.
Did that get put into the street?
That's not in this particular chart. So this is the location for the cross sections, but not necessarily installation of the manholes. So we would work with Fountain Sanitation and the water department to make sure that they're okay with all of that. So that's more of a collaborative effort. This is really just asphalt, curb and gutter, and sidewalks. We work with the planning department to
I looked
schedule
through the
that.
big
So-
one, and I didn't see it in there.
Correct, yeah.
Good.
It's not with this round of
I've been getting quite a few
specifications.
complaints about the manhole covers. One person said it was even tearing up their car, and other people just didn't like the holes. And that's a perfect way to do it, and it's really easy. It doesn't cost anything for whoever's doing the road. So,
yeah, at this point, I'll probably get with sanitation, get with water, get with Bob McDonald, and then come up with some semblance of a plan and then let you
they
know.
shouldn't mind. All it is leveling it with the road.
Right.
That's
And-
the whole crux of the thing.
Correct, yeah.
And it stays
helps-
there. It
helps with
doesn't keep
snow plows as
sinking.
well.
Asphalt won't hold it. Asphalt lets it go down deeper and deeper,
Correct.
especially with big trucks. So I just wondered. All right,
No,
thank you.
not in this particular set of specifications.
Too bad.
Okay. Do you have any idea when that might be covered?
It
Because I know
It doesn't
Councilmember Applegate's
necessarily-
brought it up for a couple years now.
Right, that's why it doesn't really get covered in something like this. This is more of a design chart and more of a higher level.
Right.
That's in the trenches, kind of how it actually gets constructed when it gets built. And we've talked about it, and it
Okay.
hasn't settled, so there's a debate about which way it goes and then who fixes it if it comes down to needing repair, and is that the streets department, is that fountain sanitation, is it the water department? So there's a lot of nuances that go into it. While I completely agree, it sounds great on the surface, when you dive into it, there's a lot of who's going to do what, and that needs to be defined.
Okay.
Actually, it went with the street design wherever I was at. It was just part of it when they built one.
And-
That's what they did.
And I have no doubt if that were the case, then Mr. McDonald would be right where I'm standing right now, just to figure out how he's going to pay for any changes that happen once those roads have been accepted.
He wouldn't have to change anything. It'd just be from the people from now on. Obviously, we don't have the money to go back and change all the roads.
Correct, right.
But, in fact, I did those in Cambria, and I did it in the whole town. And you can do a whole street, 5 or 6 of them at a time.
And
It's really a simple fix, 2 days and you're done.
Yep, so,
But we don't need to do that, but we need to set a standard for the people that are building next, so we avoid that.
Okay.
well, I know that Bob's on vacation right now, but he'll be back next week,
yeah.
and we can,
Even when we
Readdress
rebuild a
that.
road.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, all righty. So any further questions to Brandy on the item here at hand, new business, item 8A? All right, seeing none, is there a motion? Oh, I'm not sure who popped in first. Councilmember Duncan.
Staff recommends approval of ordinance 1771.
Okay, is that your motion? All right. And Councilmember Estes?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on item new business 8A? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you, Brandy. All right, okay, we have a public hearing. I practiced this with Sylvia on the phone today, so I can get it right. All right. I'm going to open a public hearing for item, hang on just a second. I know, I'm on A. There we go. 9B, public hearing and resolution 22-009, a resolution adopting a City of Fountain 3-mile plan for 2022.
Thank you. Good evening. Christy Martinez with the City of Fountain Planning Department. The item before you tonight is more of a housekeeping item. State statutes do require all municipalities that have a comprehensive plan and an annexation plan to update our 3-mile plan annually. Next slide. The statute also stipulates that all municipalities may not extend their boundaries more than 3 miles in any one direction in any given year. There have been no changes to the 3-mile plan since 2021, where we had updated all of our annexation boundaries, which did adjust the boundaries a little bit on the eastern side of the city. Public notification was provided advertising this public hearing in the El Paso County Advertiser and News on February 9th of 2022. Next slide. Figure 1 of the comprehensive development plan is part of the 3-mile plan. So the blue outer line shown on the map is the 3-mile radius from all existing city limits. It does not go on to Fort Carson along our western boundaries, as that is federal land. Next slide. This document, or this figure, is within the annexation plan. And again, the blue line is showing the 3-mile boundary. On this exhibit, it does go into Fort Carson. However, local municipalities are not able to impose any local regulations on federal-based lands. Next slide. Staff finds that the city had previously adopted a comprehensive development plan that was consistent with the state statutes. We've also adopted a 3-mile plan that are depicted within Figure 1 of the Fountain Comprehensive Development Plan and Figure 1 of the city's annexation plan, all of which do comply with the state statutes. It is staff's recommendation tonight to recommend approval of Resolution 22-009, which would comply with the statutory requirements of the city updating our 3-mile plan for the 2020 calendar year. This item was presented as a public hearing before Planning Commission on March 2nd, at which time they did make a favorable recommendation. And we would just recommend approval tonight. Are there
All
any
right.
questions for staff?
Any questions from the council for staff? Okay, this is a public hearing, so are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed, and any discussion from the council? Okay, any motion? Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah. I move to approve Resolution 20-009.
Is there a second? Councilmember Estes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second passing for the 3-mile resolution, new business item 9B. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, we are on to item 9C, increasing the maximum dollar amount for items listed on the consent agenda. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. At the last council meeting, Mayor Thompson requested that we bring this item in to the council for discussion. So this agenda item is in response to that. For those who may not be aware, we have a current financial policy that allows the city manager to approve any items that are underneath the threshold of $200,000, as long as they're budgeted through our budgeting process. If it's above $200,000, between $2 and $250, it goes on the city council consent agenda. If it's above that, whether it's projects, equipment and so forth, then it goes on the regular agenda. And so that gives you a little bit of a picture of what that looks like. Again, these are for items that are already budgeted. If this was an item that wasn't budgeted, they would all come to the council and we request a budget supplement or so forth. So really just want to open the floor, I guess, to you all and find out if there's a different number that you want us to be using for the consent agenda figure.
Right. So 8 years ago, when I first got on council and we
Yes.
started this, we would get items on the consent agenda that were up to like $500,000. And even though they were budgeted, it just felt a little uncomfortable. We wanted to bring it back and discuss it if things had been changed. So that's why we went with that amount, which arbitrarily just kind of got picked out of the air, right? It was a number that everybody could be comfortable with. So it's $250,000 right now.
Currently.
And so I did a little math over the time we got this. So it's at $250 now, so if we increased it 20%, $50,000, that would be $50,000, that would be $300,000. 30% would be up at $75,000, that would be $325,000. If you went up to $350, that's a 40% increase, $375,000 is a 50, I'm sorry, the other one was 40, and then $400,000 would be 60% increase. Now, I have a kind of a double-fold question. We can increase this tonight, but can we also get this kind of like, where we bring it back and review it every couple of years? Because I feel going this long in the process, we may look at a bigger jump than we normally might have looked at if we were reviewing it every couple of years.
Sure. Yeah, the other thing I would actually suggest, and we're going to suggest with this as well, that we put it into our actual financial policies, because of the way it got approved just by council action, sometimes we lose track, and most financial things we deal with are in our financial policies. They're real easy for us, anyone, to look up and say, wait, what was that number again? And so we're always calling Sylvia and bugging her, like, hey, what was that number? Man, I think it was 250, maybe it was 275. So we're going to put it in that handbook as well, and be bringing that back as well periodically for just review on various different policies.
Okay.
So yeah, for sure.
So that just kind of gives council some ideas about what numbers you're thinking of, if you, how you wanted to increase it, on what the percentage might be. So, Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I don't think 250 is out of line. I think that's about right. Very seldom are we so overloaded that we don't have time to talk about something when it comes to us. And a lot of times, if it's just fine, we just want to know what's going on. Okay, we like to be kept in the loop, and I think that $250,000, that's $250,000. I think that's just a good number to stay with.
I'd like to increase at least a little bit, at least to 325, just because the amount of purchases have been going up really, really rapidly. And I mean, we've seen road materials go up 20% in 1 year, building materials go up, 14% and more in 1 year. So I know we had one last week that just barely was over the 250 that we needed to review. So I would be comfortable with increasing it to 300 or 325.
And if I could also point out one other thing, just because that limit may be set at 250 or 3 or whatever that number is, there are often times where we still feel like, just because of the nature of the contract, whatever the item is, it's something that we want to actually have a bigger discussion on, and so we'll bring that back. And so you probably don't remember this, but a number of years ago when we first adopted the My Fountain app, I mean, that was a tiny little number, but because it was kind of a neat thing, it was something we really wanted to promote. I mean, I think that was under 5,000 at the time, or 10,000. It was a very small number to begin with. It was kind of one of those things. It's like, hey, this is a neat thing. We want to make sure we talk about it and get the word out. And so you'll see a number of times we actually have regular agenda items that'll come underneath that consent amount, but because of just the nature of what it is, you know, maybe it's a unique new piece of equipment, whatever that is, or maybe it's something that the council talked about in the budget process that we thought, ooh, that's kind of something that's near and dear to, you know, Councilmember X's heart. So let's bring that back since we got that conversation. We do that as well. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Councilmember Rick?
So I want to be clear, Scott. Under 200,000 doesn't require any council action.
Right. Oh, as long as it's in the budget.
As long as it's in the
council-
budget.
Yeah, that's right.
Between 200 and 250, it has to be on the consent agenda, but under our rules, any council member can pull an item off the consent agenda
Correct.
and bring it up for a full discussion with the council.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So, given that we can still pull it off the
Right.
consent agenda and review it, I'm okay with going above 250.
Do you have a number you would be comfortable with?
300, 325 is fine.
Okay.
You know, it's, what are we talking, 20, 30%, I believe you talked about?
300 would be 20%, 325 would be 30%.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and like you
that's,
said, I've been known to pull a few things off the consent agenda in my time up here. So, anybody else have any, Councilmember Duncan,
I'd like to go with the smaller number. you
the
said.
300?
Mhm.
Okay, just up at 50,000, 20%? Okay. All right, anyone else? Speak up now. Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, I'm good with the 300,000, and I agree with Councilmember Rick. You know, if we have to pull it off the consent agenda, we can and have a discussion about that. But yeah, I'm comfortable with 300,000.
And Mayor Pro Tem Estes?
I'm good with the 300,000.
Councilmember Corey?
But let me get this clear. We're not moving the line with a 200,000 up?
No.
At all? Okay. But the consent agenda line would be 300,000 as well?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is what we're floating, so, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you're comfortable with? Okay. All right, well, it seems to be that I'm hearing the consensus be 300. The majority of people saying 300, so,
So if I could just get a motion to that effect, and then that's what we'll include
Okay.
in the upcoming financial policy as well.
okay, I'm sorry, I thought this was just a
That's
discussion item, so, all righty.
Well, we placed it as an action item to bring
Okay.
it back, but
All right.
so that if the council desired to take action,
Got
that'd
it.
be good.
Okay. I'm not sure who hit it first. Councilmember Duncan?
I move that no approval items where the cost is greater than 300,000 be placed on the consent agenda.
And Councilmember Rick?
second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the, increase the amount of money that can go on the consent agenda to $300,000, knowing that we can still pull it off if we want to. Is there any discussion of that motion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, 1 no. Councilmember Applegate voting no. Motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have item 9D, authorization to add one new non-exempt full-time position to the City of Fountain Engineering Department, and we have Ms. Williams back up here again.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson, members of council. I know that we're working our way through all the different departments in the city, and the engineering department has not yet come before you to kind of give you a presentation and a background. So this is half background, half understanding what we do, and then just kind of filling in the council members who don't sit on the various committees that the engineering department supports throughout the community. This meets a strategic plan objective to facilitate responsible development, building reasonable capacity to meet future community needs. Sadly, we are victims of our own success. As we get through these slides, you will see the amount of grants that the engineering department has brought in and is bringing into the city. And we have to balance that with the needs of the development. We have to balance that with the needs of the MS4 permit. We have to balance that with the needs that the federal government is putting on us to kind of be their strong arm in the community. And even though we all have a water situation, as you know, there are portions of the city of Fountain that are not served by City of Fountain water, so those places will continue to develop to the tune of about 4,000 lots. So we still have development coming, and because those two boundaries don't overlap, there are still projects that the engineering department looks at every day and will continue to look at well into the future. Our solution to where we have found ourselves is to implement a development review fee. And this was talked about, not as directly, but last year when La Plata was going to come in, they were actually going to fund a position in the engineering department just to make sure that they had adequate support, the development had adequate support, and given the water situation, we're gonna have to take a different avenue, but we're definitely going to need something to keep checking all the boxes that the engineering department's working on. Next slide, Paul. So as a quick overview, we manage public construction projects, we review private construction projects.
Can you speak a little louder?
We inspect, I can get closer. Inspect private. One of the biggest things that happens behind the scenes, Mayor Thompson knows of, is serving on PPACG, the Transportation Advisory Committee, and all of the hours that takes and the meetings that takes. And thankfully, though, that's where the grants come from for projects that we're working on within the city. But those also just take time to manage and review and really look at. Fountain Creek, thank you, Councilmember Estes, for serving on that group. She knows right now more than ever it really needs her support, and we're working together to kind of figure out next steps, given that there's a change in executive directors right now, and we're working through that issue. Broadband is coming, as I'm sure you all know, which is going to take its own level of review and doing our best to not have our roads turn into Swiss cheese, which is what we're trying to avoid at all costs, because it's not simply going and boring a line and being done. There's a lot of potholing that goes in place, which goes back to your point, Councilmember Applegate, as to how to really fill those holes and deal with those issues as they come. So that takes a lot of our time, effort, and energy. We're in the process of doing the pavement management study. We're excited to get that done, but that also means more work. And then that will work in conjunction, hopefully, with PPRTA. I think the current consensus is we're trying for November.
We're thinking.
Okay.
Exploring.
So the pavement management study will work in conjunction with a PPRTA approval. And even if there isn't an approval, it's still going through that, trying to figure out what the best method is to really serve and repair those roads in Fountain. As again, Mayor Thompson knows, PPACG monies cannot be spent on our local roads, and our local roads need a lot of help throughout the city. Financial assurances, when developers come in, as happened in 2008, they began a lot of projects, they didn't finish those projects. It's our job to make sure that we have the monies in place in case that happens again. None of us want that, but we need that insurance just in case that happens in the future. The MS4 permit is a federal permit, essentially run through the EPA. For those of you who don't know, Colorado Springs lost a lawsuit with the EPA and is now spending hundreds of millions of dollars to correct that. We don't want that here. So that takes oversight and making sure we're familiar with both the rules and regulations in place, and then how to make sure they're implemented and then constructed properly in the field. And Powers Boulevard Extension, I'm excited to say that the planning and environmental linkage study has started. So what that is really planning the route for Powers Boulevard as it goes through Fountain, east of Fountain, and ties back into I-25. So we're working on that as well. Any questions on any of that? Paul? The great news, the monies that we have for Link Road and Indiana Avenue, Carson Boulevard, I'll take this time to thank Mayor Thompson for really pushing this issue. We have worked with CDOT, and they are going to allot $2.5 million to
Good
get
job,
that
Randy.
done. So that's something that's going to get taken care of, but as you may or may not know, that means that I'm managing it to make sure it gets done, to make sure it keeps moving, to make sure it gets to the finish line. Southmore, that is in process. We are waiting to hear back on that grant. And once again, that'll take its own level of management. I have my fingers crossed, and we're hoping we'll get it. And if not, we're gonna have to come up with some plan. So it's not off the table if we don't get that grant, but it's definitely something that's gonna need to be addressed. The Front Range Trail is in process. For those of you who don't know, Sylvia's been an amazing help getting through that process, and we're excited to get that done, get it through Adams Open Space, have one more piece of that particular trail as we try to get that up and down the Front Range Trail. And the Fountain Creek Watershed District is really involved in that too, balancing those trail corridors with those improvements. We're working on Ohio Road and Jimmy Camp. That's going to be a traffic signal. I just got an update. We should have traffic signal poles in April.
Wow.
So hopefully maybe third quarter we have it up and running, which would be fantastic. Carson Boulevard, the design was a separate $200,000. That took all of my vacation time between Christmas and New Year's a year ago to negotiate because the president signed the bill the day after Christmas. And we had about 10 days to figure out how we're going to earmark the money. So I spent several hours trying to negotiate $200,000 out of that for all the jurisdictions, and then made sure that they could set it up, and then worked with CDOT. And it's no small task, but it's wonderful when it's done. But it takes time. Bus shelters, thankfully that grant was in place, so all I'm doing is managing it. But again, there's only so many hours in the day. Any questions on these grants? I'm not going to go through this list in front of you, but this is the list of the documents that we have to review when a development comes in, and there's a lot. So there's about between 40 and 60 projects in process at any one time, and I'm going to point out our illustrious reviewer, Ben Sheets. He does a great job going through all of these and really taking the time that they need. But we definitely need more help, because I think we've gotten to the point where our skills of doing more with less have really reached their limit. Councilmember Rick has seen these documents come through Planning Commission, so he's well aware of what we're going through. And one of the biggest issues that's kind of changed throughout my career is back when I was a design engineer, my goal was to have the least amount of reviews when I submitted something to the city. I wanted to submit my plans and have no comments and have perfect plans the first time. Well, in the last 20 years, that's changed, where everybody's so busy that instead they put something on paper, they send it to the city, and they expect us to just tell them what they need, which means that they come back over and over and over again. And we have a job that's out on Banley. It's made it through its 12th review, and I think it's finally ready for construction. And that's the balance that we're stuck with, because those private sector engineers are getting paid between $200 and $300 an hour to do those plans, but our staff are the ones who are having to essentially end up doing the work for them. And again, the math isn't just, it's not working when you've got 40 to 60 projects that we have a rarity if they're done in under 3 reviews. So that's why we're coming before you today, to hopefully come to a solution that can be a win-win for everybody. So in the course of 2020 and 2021, we reviewed 600 of a combination of the documents that you saw on the previous slide. More than 90% of those took 4 or more reviews. And what we'd like to do is create an incentive that if you can get it done in 3 reviews, which thankfully Ben and I have both accomplished in the private sector, so we know it's possible, nothing changes. But at that 4th review, there's a $400 fee. At the 5th review, there's a $500 fee, and so on and so forth, to essentially incentivize the companies, the developers, the engineers, the industry to fit back into the box that they used to fit into 20 years ago. And if they've got enough money that they'd rather just pay the $400 or $500 for Ben to do that work for them, I'm okay with that. But I just want them to know that it's coming at a cost, it's coming at our time, and it really takes away from kind of the good monies that we're getting through the grants and the other parts that are really augmenting the city, where we all know we don't have those monies in the budget. So our approximate revenue is the $130,000. Our goal was to not impact the general fund, hence the review fee. And we think it's reasonable. Right now, the county has a fee of $1,800 for their 4th review. So it's clearly significantly less than that, but it's something that says, if this is the course and the route you want to take, then we just need you to help pay our engineers' salaries.
Has the county noticed that with that fee on there, people are getting it done with 3 reviews?
Well, we know the county, and it's on the books, but right now they're not at a place that they're charging it. But they are doing the same thing that we're doing, where they're reviewing the plans such that they're telling them what they have to do, and then eventually, between 6 and 10 reviews, they do it. So it's happening everywhere. It's happening region-wide. It's just the county hasn't decided to implement it because they're having a lot more pressures from developers than we are, thankfully.
Okay. How did you come up with $130,000?
I took Ben's salary, and I went to finance, and they told me the all-in costs, and they said it would be about $130,000.
Well,
So
you said that you thought that the
thanks
number
to
of people
finance.
coming in for reviews
I'm
could
sure-
underwrite it. That was my question. I wasn't trying to know what
I'm
somebody
sure
made.
that's really low,
Okay.
but that was kind of the low end of how many projects we have come in, and it's really
And
maybe
take more
just
than
4 or
3
5
reviews.
reviews.
Okay.
It was
Right.
really low, because I didn't want to kind of show you the depressing news of how much it would be. But I'm hoping it kind of brings in those reviews, so I didn't want to overpromise. So this is a conservative estimate based upon the fact that if you say it's going to eventually cost you $1,200, I don't want to pay $1,200. I'm going to do my best to have it done in 6 reviews. So it was kind of the low end with the amount of reviews that we did, and then $400 a piece, give or take 4 or 5.
Okay. Now, when I talked with you this earlier, we talked about the pros and cons of hiring a company to do the extra reviews as opposed to bringing it in-house. And you
Correct.
had some really specific reasons why you wanted to bring it in-house rather than contract it out.
Correct. So much as I mentioned before, when they're in kind of those larger firms, they're all busy. They're extremely busy, so much so that all the ones I've met with in the last couple of weeks are actually turning work away just because they can't keep up with the clients they already have. So at that point in time, the City of Fountain review goes to the bottom of their list. It's probably a quick couple-hour cursory review, and then they send it back to us, and then we have double the problem, because then someone hasn't reviewed it as in-depth as Ben's going to review it, because he knows that between Todd and myself, we're really going to support him in those comments. And then we're going back and forth, because then the City of Fountain doesn't have the coverage that they need to make sure that we're in compliance with the rules. So it's less
yeah.
expensive.
So ultimately, we've hired an outside firm paid to review it, paid them some money for it. They've taken forever to get it back to you, and then they really haven't done a thorough, in-depth review of it, so that Ben ends up doing it anyway. So now we spent money that we could have been collecting the fees on in-house.
Correct. And I think it'll incentivize better submittals.
Which ultimately, for the consumer, gets their product through faster, right?
Correct. So in theory, it should cost them less. But when I worked for El Paso County, and I did an initial review, and then they resubmitted for a second review, and I was reading through the comments, and I made it through about 10 comments, and they hadn't addressed any comments. So I called him, and I said, what's the deal? I sent you some comments. Did you get the comments? Oh, yeah, I got the comments. Were you going to address the comments? You actually look at the plans?
Yes, I actually look at the plans to see if you've addressed the comments. So there are jurisdictions, there are municipalities that do not check their plans, but you have engineers with integrity, and we want it done right. And we're not going to stop doing that if it takes 12 reviews.
Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, that works, but I think you could have gone even further. Regional building goes quite a bit higher for re-inspections and resubmittals. They get very few resubmittals because of that.
I'm not
And
objecting to a different number.
They get re-inspections because that's a contract, and even those, they start jumping, so somebody on the job's going to come out and tell them to do it right. But I think you could have gone even a little further than that just to stop that from happening so often.
And maybe we can implement this and then come back to reassess if we're seeing that nothing's changing. And then we can talk about those numbers that regional building's using.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure who was first. Councilmember Estes?
Just a quick number, if you do the 90% of the 600 is 540, and just at the fourth review, that brings in $216,000.
Thank you. I appreciate your math since I have
Public math
nothing to do
then.
math.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rick?
Ms. Williams, thank you for you and Ben for all the hard work that you have done. I can't imagine trying to manage your workload.
Neither can anyone else.
However, 2 years ago, you submitted a request to change our zoning ordinance, specifically Section 1708-020. You wanted to change access points for residential lots.
For 2 access points, correct?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure I had the right one.
Changed it from 2 to 1, and your primary reason that you gave for doing that was that we didn't have enough people on staff to go inspect those curb cuts, and the sidewalk to make sure that the proper concrete was poured and that it was thick enough to handle the traffic. And you said, I don't think we're going to be able to get additional people, so you requested that second access point be taken out, be not allowed. Now we're here 2 years later and you're asking for an additional person. Can we take that out of the zoning ordinance to allow people to get a second access point? The change has caused additional workload on our code enforcement because people complain there's a second point. We've got to send code enforcement out to issue warnings, issue tickets. It's cut into Mr. Evans's time because he's got people calling him going, I've had this point here for 20 years. I don't understand why I can't have it now. Can we add that second access point back in if we give you this additional person?
I'm not going to say yes to that because that's an inspector and this is for an engineer, but I will definitely look into it as far as, I mean, I wouldn't mind if you gave me another position, and neither would Carl, which is why he's here today. But if we can find out a way to fund that as well, depending upon how these fees come in, then I would love another inspector, and then I would love to readdress that. But that wasn't just me. That was me and planning and code enforcement and the city attorney and everybody. So I think it's a bigger conversation because there are lots that just can't have 2 accesses. And at that point in time, they're trying to drive between 2 homes and they don't own the property. So it needs a lot more rules and regulations that go with it, but I think we can definitely look at it.
Yes.
Right. I don't have a good answer for that one. We're doing our best to not have people remove access points that existed unless they're illegally crossing right away. But there's a huge balance, and right now I don't know that we've got enough regulations in place, and that's something we can explore.
And being on council when that happened, I remember most, and having taken many of those emails and phone calls from citizens, Many of them were from accesses that people just created. They created them over public right-of-ways. They created them over sidewalks. They created them too close to an intersection where they really couldn't safely enter and exit the property at that location. So it's a really, really big issue, but it's a fair, valid question. So I guess that's something that we can put on the agenda at a later date, Scott, potentially, to revisit that. But I do like your point of this is for an engineer, and that's a bigger discussion. So, yeah, I don't mind bringing it back, but we need to be looking at them really, really carefully and not just open the floodgates and say, because you have a corner lot, you get 2 accesses. Because you may, for a variety of reasons, it may not be safe.
Right, and then in
but,
those
yeah.
neighborhoods, your neighbors didn't expect you to be driving into the back of your lot. Right now, there are people who are parking their food trucks and they're parking their business vehicles back in there, and when people were moving to a residential neighborhood, that was not what they were anticipating. So there's a balance, there's a lot of ways to make it happen, and I think there's uses for it. I mean, at that point in time, if you have a business license, is the business allowed there? Was this the intent? And do we need to create more rules so that it's working fairly for everybody and people aren't moving into a neighborhood having backyard experiences they didn't expect?
Okay, so moving back to the item for tonight. The item of adding 1 new non-exempt full-time position to the City of Fountain Engineering. Are there any further questions or discussion, or Councilmember Duncan and Esther, are you wanting to make a motion, or do you have questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Councilmember Duncan?
So, Brandy, you said that this was on the lower end of the salary range. Do you know what the median salary is for this position? Because I would hate for you to have someone come in that, and they're looking for, they don't really want to work for this amount of money. I'd like to be competitive.
Yeah, I think the range was somewhere between 124 and 140, so we kind of went in the middle.
Okay.
And I
So
think,
this is the median.
yes.
Okay.
And then Scott can guide me as to, is that hard and fast, or do you want me to get a higher number now before we leave this item, or do
No,
we have
because
flexibility?
I think
we
that's
have an
something we
existing
leave.
pay plan.
I think that's something we leave up to the
Yeah.
Personnel
Yeah.
Department.
And I think it'll work with kind of how the job description gets written as well, and then where it fits in. But if for any reason we need to come back, we'll come back.
Okay, thank you.
Just realize you bump one, then you got to bump others. Yeah, so, okay. Councilmember Estes?
I just wanted you to think about, if this works like it looks like it could, think about that extra money, what you can do with that too.
Okay, I will do that, most definitely.
All right. Any further questions on this? Would you have a question, Councilmember Applegate?
No.
Okay. All right. Any further questions on this for Brandy? Okay, Councilmember Applegate?
All right. I move to authorize 1 additional non-exempt full-time position to the City of Fountain Engineering Department with funding to be provided by development review fees.
Councilmember Hinton?
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the hiring of, hang on just a second, I'm on the wrong one. Where did it's kind of on both sides here, sorry. Okay, Council, oh my goodness, we have a motion on the floor, I give up. All right, okay, any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, 1 no.
All right.
Councilmember Rick voting no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right. So that is the last item under new business. We're going to move on to correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Brandy, do you have anything else tonight?
Thank you.
All right. Mrs. Martinez?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Trying to see behind the mask and behind
It's Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing tonight either.
Okay. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really don't have anything. I just wanted to add one additional thing to Brandy's list of a million things to do. And that's with this bipartisan infrastructure law. There are a lot of there's billions of dollars in grant opportunities. And really the city engineer is going to be at the epicenter of most of that money. So we really are going to need that help for that as well. So I just want to add one more thing. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
What was the name of this guy?
It's the real name is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Approval, oh, no, Job Act. And, but everyone calls it the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Yeah.
And just as an aside on that, one of the things that PPACG is discussing, but no decision has been made, is potentially PPACG hiring a grant writer so that some of these smaller cities can go after the grants that don't have the money to write them or manage them. And then the grant writer would be run through PPACG, but the grant would probably have to fund the salary for that, and we might be qualifying for part of that. So I think that would help with some of the loads in some of the departments like you guys that are overloaded, so. Yeah, because, $25,000 to some of the smaller cities is a really, really big deal. But they need help with it, so, yeah, okay. Troy?
Nothing for me.
Nothing from legal?
It's always
Chief
good
Heber.
news, Troy. Just a couple of things real quick. I communicated with everybody on doing some training. We want to provide some basic OEM training and some active shooter refresher for City Council. After coordinating with everyone, the best date I can select is next Thursday here at 1800, 6 p.m. hours. Corey, I will get with you on a reschedule, on a one-on-one, and I'll make sure that you catch up on everything. But that will allow us to knock out that task. We have some people coming in from the county that will specialize in the OEM orientation and your role as a council person, and then we'll take care of the active shooter, and Corey, I'll get with you to take care of that. Just want to highlight a couple of great things that happened in our community in the last couple of weeks. Good news is good news. The fashion show was awesome. Deidre was there. Many of you came. It was fun. It was for the kids. It was great community support, so thank you for that. Deidre, the Black History Month presentation, just great. Cops really enjoyed being there. Great event. And then I really want to highlight Gordy McCormick in our Recreation Department. He spent, I think he just talked about a month ago, and was really on his heart to do something for the kids and really put together a program, worked really hard, got a bunch of outside resources in, raised $1,000 for uniforms from different people, came to us at kind of the back end, but between Gordy and Yanira, outside resources. He's going to run a program for kids this past Saturday at Aragon Elementary. They had probably 25 kids there, lots of coaches. Gordy ran it. Yanira was there to provide some food, and then we had a bunch of public safety people show up, and just anything we can do, we all do with kids before they're in the system or before there's a crisis. Many of our kids don't have, maybe a trusted adult or their parents deployed, especially with Ukraine and everything that's ramping up now for Fort Carson. So whatever we can all do to help that, but it made me really proud of that. Last thing I will just highlight is we're going to start doing a Heart Behind the Badge to really recognize the outstanding things that firefighters and cops do. None of them want me to take their picture and put it online. None of them. I've had to give direct orders. I've had to threaten instant termination just to get a few of those clowns to let me take a picture and tell someone good about what they do. That's how humble they are. And, it's like they work for the CIA. They don't want to be noticed. But it's great, and I appreciate all your support. And last thing is the Denver Broncos got Russell Wilson. So I think that's probably the most important thing I said for all us 2 Denver Bronco fans in the room. And thank you very much. That's it.
I was like, it just went right over
Yeah.
my head. Anything else, you guys back there? Okay, all righty, IT.
Just a quick comment, barring any last-minute technical issues, this time next week at the council meeting, we will be on our new AV system for this room, including a new voting system. So we're looking forward to getting that completed and getting that ready for everyone to utilize.
Okay, so hopefully we'll be coming at 5. If you want to learn how to do it before the meeting instead of on the spot, come at 5:30 for some instruction, right, Sylvia?
Yes, please come at 5:30.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add that our next council meeting is next week. So don't forget, we've bumped it up. On tonight's consent
We just
agenda,
did,
you
didn't we?
approved the change of the date, so.
Thank you.
Council meeting next week at 5:30, and we'll send that out on the agenda.
Okay, not council meeting at 5:30, training at 5:30.
Training at 5:30.
Council at 6.
Correct.
Okay. Chief Heber, are you bringing us, are you feeding us, or are we bringing our own dinner? Thursday night for the training. I'm okay with everybody bringing their own food, but I just kind of need to know.
I'm cooking. I think,
And people above 30 prefer something better than pizza. No,
I was just going to say pizza. We will have some food here.
No green
But
food,
it's
no green
going to be
potatoes.
Chief Heber food, so you really might want to eat before you show up. I'll have some MREs and some
Oh,
lickies and
gosh.
chewies
Okay.
here.
Everybody bring your own green food, okay? All right.
This is like BYOF. Bring your own food.
Bring your own
That's your
food.
own
Okay,
road.
that's fine, long as we know ahead of time, right?
Okay, thank you,
All
ma'am.
righty, okay, no problem with me. I usually bring mine anyway, so. All righty. Okay, so correspondence and comments and ex officio reports. Councilmember Estes, you had a couple of board meetings.
My mic doesn't work. I guess I'll just talk loud. Fountain Valley Senior Center, they're just ramping up, keeping things rolling there. They've got some great projects. They're really getting going again, getting everybody coming back. So that's a wonderful program. And they're excited to have our folks from the Mesa Ridge Apartments, the Mesa, start coming to the senior center. So they're really excited about that. So, and then the other board meeting if I had. Fountain Creek. Oh, Fountain Creek. We'll have the meeting.
Okay.
There's nothing
right.
going. Right now, like Brandy said, we're in discussions on what to do with the next executive director. That's the big one. And I think that we're not going forward with the mill levy increase this year. There's just too much going on right there.
Okay. All righty. Through PPACG, we had a committee on long-term care facilities and what is going on with them statewide through COVID. As we all know, a lot of different care issues going on. And some of the things that are just going on, they're going to have to figure out how to address it. So we had just kind of a beginning meeting on what to do about those. One of the officers just retired from CSPD and Adult Protective Services said that they're not having as many cases reported, but the cases that are being reported are much more severe than when they normally got involved at the beginning. And so that's just a lack of people working in those facilities are just really, really short-staffed. So I think there's going to be some a lot of ongoing conversations and some, we're really fighting for some bills for that. So that said, there are two bills that I would appreciate everyone's help with. They are bills, if you could call or email your local legislative from El Paso County. House Bill 221199. And this is everybody, because this is not a partisan issue, this is a people issue with the care that people need. And Senate Bill 22053. They're basically bills they're trying to push through so that people do not die alone, and these facilities cannot shut people out. They have to have a plan so that if any kind of illness sweeps through their facility, people can have at least one visitor per day or every other day come in and check on them and take care of them, and they're not going to be alone. As we all know, we've had people die alone. So I'll say those again, because those are extremely important. They're going to be in committee. There's two bills. We are pushing both of them. We want to get one through. They're both very similar bills. House Bill 221199 and Senate Bill 22053. So if anybody would please take a few minutes and email or call, make it just real short. You don't have to write a novel. You don't have to cut and paste. Just say, please support this bill because any one of us can end up in a long-term care facility at any point. So this is not just a seniors issue. And I appreciate, I think Councilmember Gordon was on for part of that also, and then Councilmember Dietrich was in person there also. And I think that just really, really shows support for our community for this issue, having three of us there. And we do have a legislative committee through PPACG, and so between all that, this is the stack of bills the PPACG Legislative Committee we're working on for things that we're saying, states stay out of our home rule cities. We want local control, no unfunded mandates, and if you're going to fund the mandates, you better be really careful so it doesn't put us over our Tabor limit. So just this local control, and these are the ones that the Legislative Committee for the City of Fountain are working on, like we said, for local control and different things. So we're really in the fight. We've done a Legislative Committee with Monument this year, and I think it's going really well. Chief Heber and I testified virtually on a bill this week, had some of the committee members walk in, say they were going to vote no to kill the bill. We got the bill tabled till the 10th. So that, and hopefully, and that had to do with Safe Neighborhoods. So that is Senate Bill 22067. It's grant funding for training for police municipalities with these critical incidents. A critical incident is defined as an incident where there might be a chance of loss of life or severe injury to someone. And we really need the training in the smaller communities for that. So hopefully that is a bill. I think I got Resource Exchange today to write a letter in support of that bill, because it's not only just kind of a vague training, but it does with elderly and developmentally disabled. So I hope so, yeah. So that's great. So we're fighting at the table. And I went up Friday for breakfast at the Capitol. Oh my gosh, 5 a.m. does exist. Yeah, by noon you're like, is it bedtime? I am not that early of a morning person. Anyway, so that was really, really cool, because not only did we get to meet with all our legislators and kind of push our points of no unfunded mandates and all that kind of stuff and local control, but they took us over the Capitol and introduced us in both houses. So that was really, really cool. So just lots of things, and lots of stuff starting to come on because of spring coming. I think things are going to get really busy. So does anybody have anything else? Councilmember Rick?
ESA meeting is not until the 22nd.
Okay.
I have sent emails to Councilmember Applegate and to Interim Chief Torres to invite them to that, but we won't have anything on that until, because of moving the meeting up, we won't have anything until April.
Okay. All right. You can remind me next week when I ask you. Councilmember Corey?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Councilmember Hinton?
Nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, just one thing. I've got some emails from people who have bought new houses, and they found things within the house that weren't up to code. And I've contacted Roger Lovell, and he says anybody has that problem to contact him. They can contact me, and I'll give them the email address for him, and then he will turn them over to just the right inspector that's the head of that group of inspectors, and we'll find out what happened, whether they missed it or whether it happened after they finaled and left and somebody changed something. So all they got to do is just contact me, and I'll get them to the right people.
You might want to get a recording of the county commissioners meeting today. They had an update from someone from the regional building on the new electrical code that they're considering adopting. Mm-hmm. And some of it is really, really costly, very, very costly. They did put some of it off for a year, but I mean, we need to really, really be on top of that and paying attention with that with the county commissioners because of some of the changes that are coming through. I don't know if you've seen any of it coming through or heard about it, but it's the state trying to adopt a new electrical code, and they were talking it could add thousands of dollars onto the price of the house. So they gave an example today of some apartment complex being built somewhere, not in Fountain, but with the amount of electrical requirements that they were requiring, it could add $1.2 million onto this project if they were all adopted. So that's some pretty serious consequences that could happen.
But to get their code from the National Electrical Code.
They were talking about a state electrical code is what they were, that's what they were.
Oh, I'm talking about regional. Regional does that.
Right.
States adopting their own. They don't have.
Listen to the
inspectors.
meeting, okay? I was just getting in on the middle of it, and they were talking money and how much more it could add onto the cost of all these things, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to be paying attention.
Our
You know.
developers always do that.
Yeah.
He's gonna make $100 million, but he doesn't want to spend one to make the people safe.
Well, they were talking
Usually that's
about
what
greatly
that's for.
increasing the amount of GFI receptacles required inside a house, not just in kitchens and bathrooms and all these different areas, and how much they cost, and they can't even get them because of supply chain issues, and something about turnoffs for different things outside houses and GFIs on air conditioning outside buildings, and I was kind of above my head, but I was listening in. Brandy's chuckling. Go ahead. I grew up with an engineer. So. All right. Okay, but anyways, I think it might be worth, listening to the tape and kind of seeing what's going on. Councilmember Duncan.
I just want to say that my heart goes out to the people in Ukraine in my prayers. So, we just keep those people in prayer as they go through this difficult time and the war that they're going through. the deafs and the children. It just, my heart just breaks for them. February was a very busy month for me. I attended PPCAG meetings via Zoom in person, again, about the discussion about the nursing homes. And, you know, I was really taken back because I've worked in nursing home industry most of my life, and the only thing that was said that was different was the word COVID. You know, my heart breaks for the people that have to be put in nursing homes, and nothing has changed. I've attended watershed district meetings. We do the legislative workshops weekly. A couple of things that I'd like to add to our list. House Bill 22-1244, public protections from toxic air contaminants. The second one is House Bill 22-1223. This one is to exempt low-value mobile homes from property tax. And the last one is Senate Bill 22-019, access to suppressed court eviction records.
Two of those bills are ones that PPACG is already working on.
Yeah, so, okay, and then I'd like to thank everyone that came out to the programs that were happening for our Black History Month. We had a film at the Library District Olympic Pride, and our county commissioner showed up. That was really nice. We had Maya Angelou at the YMCA. The closeout program was a big hit. We had a really good crowd. A couple of the churches in the area participated. We had cute little babies up there dancing, and it was really nice. We've had, on the first Sunday, we had our youth council meeting, and they came back with really good pictures. And once we meet with our city manager, and I even asked Sylvia to attend the meeting, we'll get those pictures out, because they did a project called Youth Voice, where they ran around our community and they took pictures of things they liked, they didn't like, and things that they would change. And I'm telling you, we really have some sharp kids in our Fountain Youth Council. I'd like to, give a shout out. I may sound like a broken record, but our chief, Herbert, if I could give him, I was totally in distress on Sunday, and before I could finish the sentence, the door was opening and things were happening, and it just was like, whoosh. So Scott, I really want you to consider, he walks the walk and he talks the talk, and he's great for our community. Not just, could have been a different situation. I felt like, I'm going to give up with this. And so he made it all better before I could finish. And I just want to thank you. I really do. You took a big burden off of my shoulder. Our youth council means a lot. We have new students joining all at this, if I can get everybody in the same room, but when you have kids, they're doing different projects, but we have some really sharp kids and they really like the program. So I really want to thank you for that. And so we'll start meeting with kids again with different parts of our council and our staff, because we have new kids and they're asking a lot of good questions. And I even brought Tamara some information. One of the kids even took a picture of the our historical building and had some comments. So they're really paying attention to Fountain. And that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else that they remember they want to share? All right, well, seeing none, we are going to adjourn the regular meeting of the Fountain City Council, but we're going to immediately go into the GID, so give Sylvia just a minute, but we're adjourning the regular business of the City Council.
Do we have a few minutes?
We will take a 5-minute break. council meeting, the city council shall reconvene as the ex officio board of directors of the following general improvement district, number 2, for action on the following items. Sylvia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. This is a routine item, and this will be the first reading of ordinance number 1772, GID2, an ordinance of the City of Fountain, General Improvement District Number 2, City of Fountain, Colorado, for inclusion of certain property known as Ventana South Filing Number 1 Subdivision, El Paso County, Colorado, into the Fountain General Improvement District Number 2, City of Fountain, Colorado. As I said, this is a routine application. Typically when new phases come into the city, they request to be involved in the GID2.
Okay, so just because the description is a little hard, this is the Ventana. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this is basically the last phase that Ventana is going to be building. No, not correct.
No.
Okay, I thought they were in their last phase.
No, it's a whole new section.
The Ventana filing, South Filing 1 is the first filing of their southern boundary of about 60 acres. There's still another 3 to 4 filings that would come in after this.
Okay, but it still is in the Ventana.
But it's still within the Ventana development as a whole.
Okay.
And
All right.
initially, Ventana, it first build out was in 2016.
Right. Okay. All right, and did we have any, I know in the first phase, they had to do the playground and some of the different things. The second phase, they had to do the pool. Do we have any type of that stuff into this phase?
There are some phasing improvements associated with the first filing.
Okay.
But they're tied more to their building permits and open space at this point.
Okay, because we were trying to really make sure that things were getting done in a timely manner. Okay. All righty. Okay.
That's all I have on this item.
That's all you have to say?
That's all I
Okay.
have to say on this item.
All right, so this would be GID2, and the thing, Tori or somebody, can you explain a little bit more? Because we got some new people that never voted on these GID2, so you can explain a bit more about why they're applying to be in GID2, please?
Sure. I think as a city, we established the GID a while back to try to incentivize development, residential development. The big advantages of joining the GID would be reduction in tap fees in particular, and so that was an incentive to bring the developments, residential developments to the city, and so that's kind of, it existed like that, and so residential developments, as they come in, they apply to join GID primarily for that benefit, and that's kind of, that's worked for the last handful of years, and so kind of where we're at now, obviously, and with the current water situation, you know, I think that's obviously up to the council whether or not we want to continue allowing these developments within the GID. Because we don't necessarily need that incentive anymore, and we probably need more of the entire tap fee. So, but that's obviously for the council to decide, and if there's any further questions, just let, between kind of the three of us, or four of us, we can answer any questions.
Okay, so if we don't approve them going into the GID, the tap fee becomes due when the house is built.
Yeah, and I think to
And then-
complicate matters, especially for Ventana, they have agreed, in this particular instance for Ventana South, to prepay their tap fees. And so they've actually essentially prepaid the tap fees to build the water main to be able to serve them with water.
Okay.
So they're a little bit unique in that sense. And so this one's a little different because of that agreement to prepay those tap fees. So this probably wouldn't impact them as much as, you know, it would a different development that hadn't done that.
But they were also exempted from a plan review fee? I mean, I'm just looking what's in the background information.
Correct. With GID2, there is a fee waiver of the plot plan fee, the service expansion fee, the residential construction surcharge, and then a 20% reduction in the water tap fee.
So if we don't let them in, all those things would become due, right?
Correct.
Okay, Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up that, they're building that water line, but that water line may not cover all their tap fees. They'll divide that among the houses, and they'll still pay the portion that's left over. And like she said, there's the other fees that come along with there. One of them is an exemption from the plat fee, review fee. So that's the engineering we just talked about. They would get out of that. And then it would be paid over a long term. And it would be done by the property owners, who will get a 10 mil levy put on them, which I have opposed for a long time.
Right.
But everybody can do their own decision, but I don't see any need for this anymore. And they're doing just fine, I think. 400,000 a house, that's going to be.
Well, this was in 2012, so this was 10 years ago when we were trying to get people to come back to Fountain and build. So
Right.
Councilmember Rick?
And it worked.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I am.
Okay, all right, Councilmember Rick?
So basically, we're waiving all the fees, or we're waiving a bunch of fees, and we're allowing the developer to put a 10 mil levy on the house to recoup their fees. Is that correct?
The way it works is actually, we don't waive any fees. They're not required to pay it at the time of the building permit like they would have. And instead, it's paid to the city it doesn't go to the developer, it goes to the city through the mills in perpetuity. Yeah.
Right, and it was in the
Does that make
perpetuity.
sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was in the perpetuity part that really kind of made it interest 10 years ago, because it was just going to be a steady flow of income. I believe the city clerk was next.
I just want to mention to City Council, in the list of fees that Christy had mentioned, the service expansion fee is actually dedicated to public safety and road improvements.
Thank you.
FYI.
All right, Councilmember Hinton?
So Troy, let me make sure I get this right. So they've already prepaid for the tap fees. We've got those fees already. So if we don't approve tonight, we're. No.
They're building a water line which will cover a portion of the tap
Got it.
fees.
Okay. All right. I just want to.
He's getting some clarification.
Okay, one clarification. So, it maybe is how I stated it wrong, which is they paid for the water line, and we credited them down for their water tap fee. So in essence, they paid it, but we didn't see any of the money. We just saw the infrastructure, and we got a credit for it, or they got a credit for it.
Okay, does anybody have any further questions about this? Okay, seeing none, do I see a motion? Now, Sylvia, we can do one of several things, right? We can make a motion to approve, we can make a motion to deny, or we can do nothing and that just dies because nobody makes the motion, and then it's denied. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Applegate?
I move to deny in first reading ordinance 1772 GID2.
Councilmember Rick?
I second the motion.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to deny GID2. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, okay, thank you. You barely made it. Councilmember Estes.
I have a question for Christy. It says that staff suggests approval. In a succinct manner, why would you suggest approval versus not?
Don't think that needs to be directed to me. It needs to go to
Okay.
either Scott or Sylvia.
Or whoever can answer that.
We do not recommend approval.
Oh, it says it on the.
Yeah,
it says-
the staff does not. I think that may be a template from earlier, but I wanted
It
to make sure
absolutely
that's
is.
clear.
It absolutely is. Staff does not recommend approval for this item. It was because every time we received an application for joining GID, that's how it's gone so routine that staff says, this is the first.
It says on our papers that you approved it. That helps me.
Recommend approval. Okay. All right.
Apologies for
Because I thought at our
Sorry.
council.
that. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that.
That was an executive session.
Yeah, so, no, at our council retreat. We discussed not.
Okay.
I want to bring that up.
All right. So any further discussion on the motion to deny GID number 2, ordinance 1772 GID 2? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, I am closing the hearing on, is that correct, Sylvia?
We're just going to adjourn.
We're adjourned.